Hey, entrepreneurs, it's Steve Garvin, and I am here today to share with you a little bit about the story of the two wolves. And if you're not familiar with that story, the way that it goes is that an old Cherokee woman told her granddaughter, "There are two wolves inside of you. One wolf is mean and self-centered, and the other wolf is kind and has your best interests at heart." And the little granddaughter thought about that and then looked up into her grandmother's eyes and asked, "Which of the wolves wins?" And the grandmother responded, "The one you feed." Now, I don't know about you, but I don't have actual wolves fighting inside my head. But I definitely have two stories fighting inside my head. I have the story that is fed by my dreams and hopes, and I have the story that is fed by my fears and concerns. And which one of those wolves wins depends on which story I'm investing my time, my money, my energy, my community into. Hi, Haru, it's nice to have you here. So which story do you want to have happen in your life? Is it the story, and I venture to guess that it's the story of your dreams, the story that you hope, the story that you long for to come true? The trick is, however, that it's not always obvious which one of those two wolves were feeding at any one time. As I shared elsewhere this morning, there was a time when I really focused on the easy path. There were things that I was really good at. I was really good at math. I was really good at figuring out problems, and it came relatively easy for me, and I got good grades, and so that's the path that I went. And so it seemed like I was feeding the right wolf. And to be fair, I've gained a ton of value out of going down that path. But it wasn't the path that led to my dreams. It wasn't the path that called to my heart. It called to my mind, but it didn't call to both my heart and my mind, which is where I believe that we need to be heading in that direction, the direction where both our hearts and our minds are being fed, being nurtured, being taken care of. That if we only focus on one of those two things, then we tend to get lost a bit. We tend to not see the opportunities that are ahead of us. And similarly, when things get to be difficult, which seems almost inevitably happens, we start to question the direction that we're headed in. If you're like me, that difficulty might be a message to you that you're headed on the wrong path. That if this was the right path, that it should be easy. That you should be able to figure it out, and that you shouldn't struggle. But what I wasn't realizing at that time was that struggle is part of the journey. That every story has conflict in it. That if the story doesn't have conflict in it, then it isn't much of a story. If you think of some of the classic stories of our age, and I'm thinking of like Harry Potter or Star Wars or any other story that we see, there's always struggle in that. There's always conflict. There's always difficulty that the hero needs to overcome in order to get to where they want to go. And the same thing is true in our businesses. That if we want to get to the pinnacle, if we want to reach the peak of success, however we define that, then we need to be willing to put up with a challenge, the obstacles that are in the way of getting to where we want to go. We need to recognize which wolf we're feeding. And sometimes those wolves can, like I said earlier, be hard to distinguish one from the other, because they both have soft fur, they both have bright eyes, they both have sharp teeth. And the wolf that has our best interests at heart sometimes uses those sharp teeth in order to get our attention and to pull us back onto the path that is best for us to be following. And so if we're always looking for the easy way, the comfortable way, the familiar way, then we don't grow and become the people that we can become. We don't become the entrepreneurs that we can be. We don't have the impact that we want to have. And so it's by getting comfortable with the discomfort, that by putting ourselves into difficult places, by recognizing the path that we're on, and by being willing to continue to get back on that path after, when the path is difficult, when the terrain ahead isn't smooth, when it isn't a downhill ride the whole time. And so how do you recognize which path you're on? And for me, and you all know how much I enjoy story, for me, it's about knowing what story you're trying to create. That when you are creating a business and it hasn't yet happened, when it hasn't yet materialized into the vision that you have for what the work that you're doing, then you give yourself the time for that reality to come true. Would love to get your guys' thoughts on this. What obstacles, what struggles have you faced as you've worked and labored to create the vision that you want for your business? Has it been easy? Has it been challenging? And what have you had to do? What have you had to learn in order to get past those difficult points? And what are the wolves that you're facing in your business? And the wolves can take many different shapes. They can take the shape, for me, one of the struggles that I face regularly is my struggle with my mental health, with depression. And recognizing that struggle, both for the good that it provides, in that it helps me to know when I'm taking good care of myself and when I'm not. So that's one sign of the wolf. Another sign is cash flow in our business. If we're not being profitable in our business, then perhaps we need to pay a little more attention to how we're feeding the wolves. That, as I was telling my wife earlier today, for me, accounting was easy because I always knew I always knew that given enough time and given enough resources, I could come up with the perfect answer. I could solve the problem. Marketing, on the other hand, is challenging because there are a lot more variables involved in it, and it's not guaranteed that what I create today might not be what others want, because there's a lot of subjectivity to it. There's a lot of style and expression, and what I'm creating isn't necessarily what other people want. And it's by navigating, by listening to both what it is that I want to be creating, as well as listening to my audience and learning about what it is that they want to be creating, and being willing to step through those difficult points, face the wolves that are in our way of getting to where we want to go. That, and let me just tell you a little insight on this. Yesterday, when I posted set up this invite, there were a number of, I don't know, it seemed like hours between when I posted and when I last checked whether anybody was going to be coming to this or not. And it wasn't until I woke up this morning and many hours later that I saw that people were actually interested in what I had to share about this idea of feeding the two wolves. And there was a part of me that was ready to say, you know what, this is not going anywhere. No one's interested in what I have to say. And that wolf, that mean wolf who wanted to shut me down, his voice was really strong. And I had to go back and look and say, what is it that I'm trying to create? If I listen to the wolf that's speaking to me now, does it lead me towards what I want to be creating? Or does it cause me to retreat and to retract and to pull back? And by being clear on the story that it is, the story that I want to be creating, I then made decisions that helped me to continue to move forward in the direction that I wanted to go. I had to face the voices inside that were pulling me in astray, that were pulling me in different directions. And then we have to do the similar things ourselves. Is that the journey isn't always smooth. The journey isn't always downhill. There are times when we have to go uphill and we have to face the wolves that keep us from easily getting to our destination. And so my challenge to you today is to look at the story that you're telling and the voices that you're listening to. Are you listening to the voices that, even though they may be hard and challenging at different points, the voice that is the voice of your dreams and your hopes? Or are you listening to the voice that would have you retract, that would have you retreat, that would have you pull back because things are too difficult and you don't feel like you are up to the challenge? I invite you to, no matter how difficult the journey ahead may get, that you always be listening to the wolf that pulls you forward, that calls you to be more of who you are. And part of that is, I'd love to, if you would like to, I would love to hear your story. I've set up my schedule so that I have some space for people to get some coaching, counseling, guidance on the story that you're telling. And I'd love to take some time with you and help you to get clear on the story that you're telling. Let's create some structure around that so that you can always know the way forward for you to go to create the profitable, fulfilling, rewarding business that you want to have. And I'll put that link in the comments afterwards. Anyway, until our stories meet again, be the bright light in someone's dark night. Ta-ta.